wanted to explain, first let me establish where we are, and then we'll continue. We are on page Zayin, and it is 5 lines from the top. The line begins with the word AYIN. Towards the end of that line. We are discussing and explaining the principle of the 3 levels of Nakuda, Kav, Shetach, how that approximates, that represents the 3 levels of oil that we discussed previously. And then, after discussing the 3 levels of oil, we say that this is the similar lineage that's discussed in different terms. It's called Nakuda Kav Shetach. Nakuda Kav Shetach gives you a kind of a defining element relative to relating to these oils. Okay, 3 oils. It's Nakuda Kav Shetach. And we were in the middle of discussing the Kav level. And we said that the Kav level can be understood in 2 different ways, and it has 2 different impacts. There's the Kav level that where you draw from the Nakuda into your own environment, so to speak. Excuse me. So that it fits into your environment and you fully comprehend it and grasp it. It's called putting it into Hasogel Ha'avodah. Going mute or going down to a seichel cotton and so forth. And then there's the other aspect of the Kav. It is that the Kav exposes the content of the Nakuda. That represents ultimately an element of tzimtzum, because this exposure, the content, this in a certain sense detracts you from your attention to the etzem, and you begin to recognize content, like we said in the case of the emotion of the home, and then there is the amenities of the home. Amenities of the home are part and parcel of the home. Nonetheless, when you start thinking in terms of the amenities, your sense of the home impact is more distant.
Huh. So that's not the case in the first way, where the Kav is B'hasaga B'Havana. In both cases, isn't it the case that there's Tzimtzum?
Yes.
Okay.
This depends on
Okay.
And the Rebbe mentioned that this is the same. That this is similar to what we discussed earlier. It seems to be Shoroshei Ha'oiris. The whole phenomenon, concept of tzimtzum in oir, is a very difficult thing to focus in, because oir means that there is the yetzer. Oir means the impact of the yetzer. And the tzimtzum of that is very difficult to pin down. Nonetheless, we speak about it all the time. And the tendency in our way of thinking is that we want to define it to the point where we can actually grasp it. This is what where we were kind of stuck yesterday with Akiva.
Just to get a sense of what this defining to the level of grasp is.
Okay.
To bring to Hasaga Vahavana is seemingly appropriate, and that's
It's appropriate, and yet there is also a certain precautionary element.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the point. I'm thinking of what would be the clearest and most straightforward way of exposing it. In your own home, there are all kinds of different entities present. The table and the chairs and the beds in your home do not occupy space. They're merely complementing and exposing what a home is. Which is exactly how you view it. And if you were to explain to someone else, this is a dining room. What's a dining room? This is a room, this is a room. What's the difference? Oh, this is, here you perform the kind of function. Give me a more exact definition of what that is. What does a function mean? So, without having a reality, so to speak, let me I'll go a little bit down and you'll understand this very clearly. I always point out this is something which we have to be, because we're exposed to an idiotic mode of thinking. That became the standard. The world created itself. The Benish Shalom. That's all there is. The Pasuk says in Tehillim, "Im Hashem leave the bayis shovom lo beinu." If you have a house that's built, it's because Hashem was involved in building this house. Yes, you build a house by putting brick upon brick, but that is not what a house is. It's a God reality. If your world were an imaginary world, there would be no houses. And this is why we have a difficulty in whatever is being said, give it to me to a graspable level. In other words, I'm completely outside of it. I have no sense of reality of it. Just tell me on a functioning level what that is. This reminds me, as I'm speaking, one time, I mentioned this lately a couple of times. One time we were learning something. So, there's a question from the table. So when I'm asked what this is, what do I answer? This is not meant for public speaking. This is meant for personal understanding. Are you involved in reality, in God's world, or you're not? What we have been given on the secular level is you stand outside of the world and be an observer and know exactly what's going on in the world. No matter what you know, it never becomes real. Because the most fundamental reality of the world is that it provides a place for you. For whom? For the human being. So if you take yourself out of it, then you have nothing. Oh, wait a second, but that means I really know and really understand. That means I'm totally blind. Whatever you know is an idiotic knowledge. So therefore, when we speak over here, we say that when the kav represents the bechina, it's the bechinas miud hoir. The bechinas miud hoir, we said, means that there is a lesser focus, lesser recognition of the oil, of the impact of the etzem, and exposing the various protein, the various content. We have a very excellent way, a moshel, so to speak. Mishalim, as we said many times, Mishalim are real. Because, good morning, because the Rebbe created the world in this fashion. You know, from the Atzilus, B'di Yetzirah Asiyah.
Just to, I think I might have missed this cautionary note, just in one sentence, is not to let the definition be all there is, not to separate the furnishings from their purpose.
That's right.
Okay.
The cautionary note is to know that we are talking about you. Creation. I am part of the creation. That's what I experience all the time.
We're talking about you. Don't separate out. Don't make things too objective. Don't take the wonder out of it, the makif out of it.
Don't take the reality out of
Okay. Okay. Thanks. And then it seemed like we were starting a new point, something different, right?
Well,
we're still on that point.
No. Well, we're going there now, right? We had difficulties because we're asking to get a grasp on the principle of the initial tzimtzum, that there is a tzimtzum, that there is a reduction of the impact of the oil. So, what does it mean, the induction of human? So we said many times that this is extremely, germane, extremely exposing the principle. You have a bedroom. The bedroom has a bed. The bed is made to lie down and rest and sleep. That bed, that picture, can be transpositioned into a hotel or any place else. And we said, no matter where you transposition it, it belongs in a home. And if you don't have the home element there, it doesn't have the full impact. Because a human being belongs in a home, not in a bedroom. A human being does not live by function, he lives by reality. Wherever you turn, we have this phenomenon. He's eating, no, he's having a meal. What's the difference between having a meal and eating? What's the difference? You can eat by yourself, but you can't have a meal by yourself. All right. Okay, so here we pointed out, we are, what is it? 5 lines from the top on page 7 of AYIN. The line begins with AYIN. We're going towards the end of that line. After the kuli, the word begins hashetach. So we say the kav in this version and this effect of the kav, and that it exposes what's in the nakuda. This exposition, even though it exposes it exactly the way it is in the nakuda, not to a tzimtzum, not to reduction, not to make it graspable, just to read what's in it. That exposition in itself already reduces the oil element in the kav. Miyut oil. Again, we had this marshal from our own experience. And the reason this marshal of the home, I'm going to reiterate it. The reason this marshal of the home is a valid marshal is that the human being was created with that profound recognition. Because he was created to actually be a presence in the world, not a visitor. The responsibility that goes along with his being. So when he opens, and I said all the time, he opens his eyes, he says, it's day. Oh, that's my world. It's daytime. It's beckoning me. I belong there. It was created for me. We can't repeat it enough times because of the background that they come from. In the background, everything a person does is some kind of a reaction for self-preservation. No direct meaning to it. All right, let's get inside a little bit. Again, Shetach. So we spoke about the two levels. It's called Nakuda and Kav. And we spoke about the Kav in two different variations, two different effects. And the third level is called Shetach. Again, these three levels, Nakuda, Kav, Shetach, correspond to the three levels of Oyer that we earlier discussed at great length. The Oyer, as it is in nation, the Oyer is agnuzes that are contained within the essence, between the inside. And then when there is a tzimtzum, and then when they become exposed, and then there is Oyer b'kelim. And so here we're discussing the similinion with different terminology. That is helpful for us to be able to relate to and focus it. Nakuda, Kav, Shetach. Why is the first level called Nakuda? Because Nakuda points, Nakuda focuses on the reality itself. No impact, no defining element. Rotzoin. What's a rotzoin? What kind of koyach is rotzoin? We can't define rotzoin, and yet this is the most important quality we have. This is what makes us real. Way above seichel and chochmah. That's Nakuda. Kav, that's what it has to do with seichel. And then there is Shetach, as we're going to go now. Shetach, translate the word Shetach. Expanse. Area. So at the point when the Kav is exposing the content of the Nakuda, just exposing it, even though it's exposing it without any effect, just the way it is in its source. The very exposure itself already represents a lessening of the awareness of the Oyer. Nonetheless, it is still bipshitus. This is why we're going back and forth, as we pointed out. Shetach. Then there's a third unit called Shetach. Just want to read a few words inside. Shetach means that it actually becomes a presence within a different keli, so to speak, a different context. So far we talk about the way the oil is onto itself. Nakuda Kav. Shetach is when the oil has an impact on the keli. A completely external effect.
Could think Metzius bifnei atzmai. Could think like that. When you say shetach.
The oil never becomes a Metzius b'fnei atzmai. For it affects on something that it has an effect on something that it's external.
Okay, or bekeli is not Metzius bifnei atzmai.
The oil is not. The keli is.
It is. Is shetach or bekeli already?
Yeah, that's what we say.
It is.
Vashetach hu she'oiles mislabshim, k'mei she'oiles mislabshim b'keli. Again, I'd like to mention, that we should remember, we are talking about not about the keli. We're talking about the oil in the keli. Oil always remains connected to the source. Very, very difficult for us to conceptualize. Conceptualize is impossible. We have to recognize the reality. And I said many times, Chassidus says, the sun brightens up the world. And our first reaction, our instinctive reaction is because the sun sends its ray that reaches the world. That's the way it's explained. It becomes part of the world. Not only only part of the world, the whole phenomenon that it makes, that it brightens up and it exposes everything is because it deflects from the object. The whole phenomenon occurs right here in the physical environment. So we say, no, this is a dark way of seeing things. The very fact that there is a sun, this brightness, this makes day. The whole concept of being able to see is a novel concept. It's a creation all in its own. Because the world on its own was dark, where you know things by touch, all of a sudden you can see. It was a novel creation. And going back to the sun, just more quickly, Rem mentioned what we mentioned many, many times. The sun brightens up the world by its presence, not by the ray that it sends out.
Right. And this is such a crucial difference because the one is about reality, the other is about process, about...
One is this called oyer. The presence is the oyer hashemish. Oyer means the impact, the reality itself. Not its interaction.
Or is like the thing itself, the reality unto per se.
Sound brings to the world a principle, a new principle.
Okay.
There's such thing as light, as sight, as day.
Okay.
Okay, so today we had the introduction to Shem. All right, let's go. Have a great day.